Dear ladies and gentlemen, you are very welcome to take a seat in the hall. The Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Vytautas Magnus University Agriculture Academy. It was wonderful to hear this musical opening performed by Agnė Vaitonė, a devoted kanklės music performer and educator who cherishes and promotes the traditions of this Lithuanian national instrument, the kanklės.
We are delighted to welcome you to the 12th International Scientific Conference, Rural Development 2025, Resilience to Global Change. This year, conference is organized in cooperation with our international partners, Agroecology, European Research Service on Agroecology Conference, and Forschungszentrum Jülich.
This conference has brought together about 314 scientists, researchers, and guests from 22 countries: Finland, Sweden, Japan, Germany, Greece, Malaysia, Poland, Latvia, Spain, Czechia, Slovakia, Albania, Kenya, Estonia, Portugal, Belgium, Mozambique, Morocco, the Netherlands, France, and Ukraine. During the conference, we will have the opportunity to hear approximately 115 presentations.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, we would also to highlight that each of you has received a participant card with a sustainable lanyard of flower seeds. After the conference, you can plant the lanyard and enjoy the beautiful flowers it will grow.
Now we would like to introduce you the main members of the scientific committee. Chairperson, Professor Astrida Miceikienė. Big applause, please. Thank you. And notably, as of today, October 1st, Professor is transitioning from her role as the Chancellor of Vytautas Magnus University Agriculture Academy to serve as Vice Rector for Strategic Development and Finance at Vytautas Magnus University. And Vice Chairperson, Associate Professor Judita Černiauskienė. Yes, big applause, please. Editor-in-Chief of the Proceedings of the Rural Development International Conference, who is also the Vice Person of the Conference Organizing Committee.
And the main members of Organizing Committee, Chairperson of the Conference, Laimas Kauronė. And Administrator of the Conference, Monika Medikienė.
And we would like to express our thanks to the conference partners and supporters, Jülich Forschungszentrum, SRH University, Agroecology European Research Services on Agroecology Conference, Lithuanian Rural Network, Research Council of Lithuania, Kauno Grūdai, and Mantinga for their considerable contribution and support. Big applause, please, for our supporters.
And now we have an honor to invite the host of the conference, the Chairperson of Scientific Committee, Vice Rector, Professor Astrida Miceikienė, to deliver the welcome address. Dear Professor, the floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, partners and friends, on behalf of Vytautas Magnus University Agriculture Academy, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome you to the International Scientific Conference, Rural Development 2025, Resilience to Global Change. This event has become a meaningful tradition uniting researchers, policymakers, practitioners, and community leaders from many countries. Here at Agriculture Academy, we are proud to serve as a platform where knowledge, ideas, and experiences are shared in the pursuit of sustainable and resilient future for our agriculture, forestry, and rural regions. The topic of this year's conference, Resilience to Global Change, could not be more timely. Agriculture, forestry, and rural communities worldwide are facing profound challenges, including climate change, biodiversity loss, demographic shift, technological transformation, and economic uncertainties. Yes, the very challenges also create opportunities for innovation, adaptation, and stronger collaboration here contribute to meaningful change in our communities and beyond. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to organized partners and sponsors who made this conference possible. This event would not be possible without their dedication and hard work. Let's all make the most of the time together, and I wish you all a successful and enjoyable conference. Welcome to Vytautas Magnus University Agriculture Academy and to Rural Development 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Professor. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are starting the plenary session. We kindly remind you that each presentation is allotted 20 minutes, followed by 10 minutes for discussion. Transitioning towards sustainable agriculture requires strong research infrastructures that connect disciplines and foster innovation. In this regard, we are honored to welcome Dr. Michel Beuer, Director General of European Research Infrastructure in Experimental Ecology, France. With a well-known career as a French National Center for Scientific Research, Research Director in Astrophysics, contributing to discoveries such as gravitational waves, he now leads major initiatives in agroecology. Today, Mr. Beuer will present transdisciplinary services for the research community in agroecology, the AgroServe project. Please welcome, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the nice presentation and also for your nice words, Astrida. And I confess that agroecology is very far from gravitational waves, but that's the life in the career. I don't know who put the, I suppose, oops, AgroServe, I think it's, oops, I did something. If I can have my presentation.
This is yours.
Yeah, I suppose it's. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, and I should say that the AgroServe project is really something which is interdisciplinary, and what the best illustration for interdisciplinary sciences is really to have an introduction with music, of course. But let's go now to the. I'm trying. Okay, no, I made something wrong. Yeah, but I did. Forward? Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. This is this one. Okay. Thank you very much. So, sorry for the technicalities. AgroServe, why we do agroecology? Because, of course, as you know, many of you in the assistant know, the current food systems arrive to a limit, and also to the Earth boundaries. First, they fail at present to give nutrition for everybody. We have environmental degradation. They are responsible for 1/3 of the gas houses emissions, the loss of biodiversity, and there are many inequities in the systems. So really we have to address now the sustainable development goals of sustainability in agriculture, which is identified also by the European Union priority. And agroecology is some solution because it's a concept, but it's a concept which is by essence transdisciplinary. It's both a science, it's a set of practices, it's a set of policies, and really it's a systemic view, it's a global view from the food production to the food consumption, and probably to we can enter into the bioeconomy, which is one of the topics of this conference. We are scientists, so I will define AgroServe as science, in science, and it can be defined as an integrative study of the ecology of the entire food system to the consumption, which means we have ecological, economic, and social dimensions in AgroServe, and which has been theorized by Francis in 2003. There are many other definitions, but I think there are, a dozen of definitions of what agroecology is. But in the European Union framework, AgroServe is really the first project that supports the scientific community in agroecology. And since you were the first, it was quite difficult at the beginning to understand what we had to do, because we are all in our scientific field, ecology, meteorology, biology, microbiology, etc. First, to understand what is what is ecology. And so what we do, in fact, we address several levels of the here you have the 13 principles and the elements of agroecology. So you see that you have the biodiversity, the health, the animal health, the health of ecosystems, which means one health problem. So we are addressing here several levels. First is of efficiency in practices, alternative possibilities in terms of practices input, and probably the third level, which is redesigning the whole systems. Of course, we do not redesign. We provide avenues, ways for policymakers, for practitioners, farmers, to do this transition. So, agroecology and the rural development. First, we preserve the biodiversity and the ecosystems. So, meaning that we enhance the resistance of ecosystems towards climate changes, of course, and also towards extreme events. I think you all know that I don't know specifically the case of Lithuania, but this summer, Europe, and even this fall, Europe had a lot of extreme events, and which can, agroecology is a way to adapt to this kind of changes. It's healthy soils, I think, the core of agroecology. It's the minimizing the use, it's not preventing, but it's minimizing the use of fertilizers, pesticides, etc. The climate mitigations, also it means that we retain carbon in soils, so the carbons stay in the soils, and we contribute to positively make the sequestration of carbon. They are less vulnerable, and it includes mitigation practices from nature-based solutions. It leads also an improved farm enclosure. So this is, I would say, the advantages in terms of soils, climate, etc. You have also advantages for the farmer, because if we don't have, if we say, okay, agroecology is nice, etc., if the farmer does not see her or his interest, they won't never change. But what has been seen and from the experience is that really it improves both the productivity of the farm and the incomes of the farmer. They are compatible with also with the production, so with an additional income with solar production or wind. It's also it can be used in peri-urban environment, and that could be also a solution to mitigate the climate of our cities. And also it contributes, of course, to the economy and the autonomy and the adaptation of, I think we will, I think in we are already 5% in urban areas. And to the society of rural communities, so not only urban but rural. So it's really a nice thing. So it's a holistic way to One Health communities, to One Health and for communities that adapt better to the climate change. And it reduces, of course, the exposure of the farmer, which is really a big health concern now. So what is now AgroServe? So I had made, you have here a poster. It's a large transdisciplinary project. We started in fall 22, so we are now 3 years from now. From the beginning, it's a 15 million euro EU-funded project under Horizon Europe. And we had just a pan-European infrastructure. A European infrastructure is a set of infrastructure that really provide cutting edges that are landmark or project. I mean, they are really, it's a consortium of countries that decided to provide to the community the best tools they can do for their research. And behind this 11 pan-European infrastructure, you have 73 beneficiaries, including VMU, and the coordination is made by one infrastructure called ANA-ERIC. ANA stands for Analysis and Experimentation in Ecology. It's a larger offer of services for, I think, in Horizon Europe, with 143 transnational and virtual services. And really, we took this holistic way of ecology, so we start, I think, with the molecules, with EU Open Screen, with microbes, with MIRI, to ecosystems, with emphasis. I can't cite all the infrastructure that are here, but for instance, with ANA emphasis, EMBRC, we are going to including the marine ecosystems, and we support all the traverse costs, the access costs, because the instrumentation are quite expensive, and the subsistence. It's interdisciplinary, so we require that each proposal we get should address two different infrastructures. And it's transdisciplinary, so we introduce 5 labs, I think it's 3 in the Mediterranean area, a lot of Mediterranean, one in Central Europe, in Czechia, and one in France, so that it's really global Europe. And this, of course, we expect that soon this living lab will really have produce to use the service. So living labs it's a way to associate the practitioners, the farmers, the industry to the academic community and to make a research. So it's a co-creation. Really, we welcome this proposal from non-academic partners. So you see here all the panorama of our services. I won't detail here, but we have many different disciplines. You see that our installations are really scattered along in Europe from the to the far north of Europe. And who can apply? It's scientists at all levels. I think we encourage young PhD, young even before their PhD, young scientists, postdoc to apply. We encourage widening countries to apply also. There is no restriction for private sector scientists or engineers, and we are tailoring. It's very difficult, even when you are not a scientist, an engineer, to understand what is in the catalog, because usually we ask the facility manager to describe the installation. But if you are a facility manager in Milvi, you describe from your point of view of discipline. So now we are trying to have explanation for which is also for the non-specialist. The farmers and also the practitioners, the non-scientists through our thinking labs, which is really an opportunity to tailor a proposal to the needs of practitioners. It's also from anywhere. We welcome, of course, applications from the European Union countries and from associated countries, but also we can accommodate third countries within the limit of 20%. But as you know, this limit is not able for countries that are medium, low or medium level income. There is a list of countries where anybody, and they do apply. I think I have a map after that. And we have things that show a good flow of proposal from low middle income countries. Only the only requirement, it should be interdisciplinary. It should address, the proposal must address one aspect of agroecology, and he has, or they have to explain that. We request that they discuss first with the facility for the feasibility of the study, because when the proposal can be a very nice scientific proposal, if you cannot accommodate it in a facility or in an installation, how do we do it? And of course, the evaluation is completely independent, so it's made by a panel, a review panel, and based on the scientific merit as usual. And what you get, it's a successful applicant. They are granted free access to our installation, to our 100 and more installation to perform their research, the use of experimentation, the training also, training, support, and advice from the facility managers, and including engineers and technicians in charge of the installations. The virtual services provided by mostly managed by our by Elixir, which is also a research infrastructure in the European landscape. And of course, we support travel and lodging within some limits, of course. But we don't, sometimes there is a confusion because some expect to have a pot of money to make the research. No, we don't give grant. We give the money to, well, we can give a grant for the travel, but otherwise we give the money to the installation to accommodate the research. So we don't give a direct grant. We reimburse, in fact, the installation manager as usual in the Horizon Europe infra framework. But you should realize the grant is that access to the expensive equipment, to the data, and of course to the expertise at the best infrastructure in the EU. As this is you see that 1/3 of 1/4 to 1/3 of the applicant we had already freed. And you see that non-EU calls, the first call we had many proposals from Africa, and during the second call it was mostly from, we had also many proposals, but from Asia, including extreme Eastern Asia. We had, it was mostly in Europe, but still with non-EU country in the third call. And now I think the deadline for the fourth call is the 15th of October. So if you want to make a proposal, you have to rush, have 2 weeks to write your proposal. And you see here that really the applicant plays a game of asking 2 different infrastructure, and you see that they are of course, some infrastructure are more represented, MIRI for microbial, Eurobioimaging, and Metro Food also. Emphasis are quite requested, which it's normal because they are at the core of the science, but of the agroecology, but also you see that many infrastructure are required. And this, I think these are just provisional numbers. And now our, it's a bit difficult to see Europe, but you see the spread of our living labs, which are from the south to the north. We have 3 connected living labs in the Mediterranean area, 1 in Italy, the other one on biotech in France, and the third one on social sciences in, we have also social science, of course, in Portugal. Then there is a Czech living lab, mostly on the processing of food, and the Finnish living lab, I think, it's on Nordic agriculture. So this is, and this is less, So you see the Nordic is more greenhouse gases, the Central is sustainable farming and breeding practices, and we low input practices and social science and biotech in the Mediterranean. We have also our, as usual in Europe, the data has to be open, of course. Everybody can look at the data, and it has to be fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. And this is what we do in AgroServe, thanks to Elixir. So it's we have our standards, we have our cookbooks, how to make a fair data, and then the management practices. And here you see where we are located in the agroecological transition. Of course, we are not at the last level, because this is really the social, it's where the society should take it. But I think we can address mostly the first 3 levels and even the 4th level, which is starting to transition. And here's on the principle, I think we do not address really the economical transition, but it's, I think, only one principle that we do not address. Some results from happy users, just some free examples. Les Milieux, which is really the around the microbiota of cabbage plants. And I think this is just an advertisement because the author will make a talk tomorrow in the AirSAC during the event. So, and used, or she used, I think, both MIRI and Metro Food. The second example, it's on pollination, and you see that we use, it's molecular and taxonomy in Austria and Serbia, but EMBRC was also in the loop with Algeria. And the use of biotech. Finally, the MR food, so pasta from MR, has been done. So you see that here we go to the primary production to making pasta, so making food. It's here also it's both Metro Food, ANAE, and social sciences, UTAD, to work with farmers. And just some advertisement. I said we have a line for the fourth call in 2 weeks. And we have 2 calls, and the 2 last calls will be are planned for 2026. So don't miss the last call in 2026. We make a webinar series, and the dates of the webinar series are announced in our agroserve.eu website. And I think with that, I probably yes, thank you for your attention, and I think I can take some questions.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting presentation. Thank you. So we have time for the questions. So my colleague, microphone. So if anyone have a question, so don't hesitate. So while you are thinking, very short questions. So what about the future of the Agroserve? Do you think expand, for example, number of living labs, application from the outside the Europe? So maybe there something. How you think?
This is a very good question, because one of our work package is about the sustainability. What I did not say, because I cannot say this, we have the 145 services come from the existing infrastructure, and we can see they are sustainable. But we are making services by combining, new services by combining existing services. This is one of our work packages, and we try to have them sustainable. And we just started a study on that. Can be sustained through the infrastructure. It can be sustained where we hope that there will be in the next work program some support from Europe. We are not really in the economical domain, but we are trying to get the sustainability of our services beyond Agroserve, which will end in 2022. And for the living labs also, there is a sustainability study. It can be made through the partnership, the Agroecology partnership, which is Agroecology, Living Labs, and Research Infrastructures. It can be done also through some specific support from both, I would say, the country hosting the Living Labs and or to the practitioner or the but yeah, we plan to have a new project or a new program beyond agro. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see. Oh, Ken, please.
Just a short question: how you view forestry in your, for instance, I mean, our fields are in a way standing. And for instance, our wolves may eat your crops. And how do you have any attitude on forest-related projects?
So there is, I should say, when we ask some forests in the services, I think in other infrastructure, but it's not at the center. not as a center. We are doing, at least in NIA, I know that we have several experiments in forest, trying to, this is our infrastructure and this is not in AgroServe. But I think this forestry and especially so ecoton, so it's bringing really crops and forest. This is quite important. It's maybe it's also a gap, I would say, in the infrastructure landscape. We are discussing to fill this kind, but it's not easy. But I confess, yeah, forestry is a big problem.
Okay, thank you once again. So, your applause. So, resilience forests are essential to rural development, biodiversity, and our collective response to climate change. In this context, we are honored to welcome Professor Erik Kie from the University of Competence, Denmark, leading expert in forest genetics. He has authored more than 250 publications and leads a research group exploring the adaptive capacity of European tree species with recent work on epigenetic and microbiomes. Today he will present trust in diversity and learn from strategies for development of forests and trees with high resistant and adaptive potential towards climate change. Dear Professor, please welcome.
Thank you very much. I just need some help with this slide. So I will, hopefully the next half an hour, I'll take you into the forest. So I hope you'll bear with me. I start to like to take you on an adventure with Alice in Wonderland. So it's about, the conference is about resilience to global change. And I'll just start taking you probably all know the story about Alice in Wonderland. Alice that falls into this rabbit hole and finds out the things are really strange. And at the age she wants to get out of this, this strange place, she runs to get away. And something strange happens because she runs and runs and and she asks the Red Queen, what's happening? And the Red Queen says, you get nowhere. You have to run as you can just to stay in the same place. So this is, has given the name to what's called the Red Evolutionary Law, or the Red Queen hypothesis, that, that all species must continuously evolve and adapt to maintain their evolutionary relevance. The Red Queen Evolutionary Law by Van Walen in 1973. So I start with this because we are looking into major changes, as we all know, global changes, which has also a lot to do with climate change. It will get in the bottom here in Scandinavia will get warmer and wetter, and when it gets wetter with more vapor in there, it also gets wilder. And we have more extreme climate. Take the IPCC. How do we have it there? Okay. This is a illustration for the most recent IPCC report, and it shows somehow we have experienced the temperature increasing from back from the pre-industrial times up to today, and the take-home message here is actually that we're dealing with rapid changes. not only big changes, but also rapid changes. So within the lifetime of a person which is born in 2020, the climate would probably get much different, get warmer, depending, of course, on how much carbon we are going to emit. And also, there are a lot of assumptions in the models, but basically, within the lifetime of a single person, we will see rapid changes, which will have implications for biodiversity, for agriculture, as we discussed this conference, and some examples here of the major changes that are predicted. But I just want to focus that when they do this for these scenarios, it's based on this assumption that we are without adaptation. So in order to avoid these big problems, we need to do something. We need to go for something to these major changes. And that's where forests come into the place. So forests and trees are seen as an important solution to some of these climate change challenges, and this is for good reason. Forests and trees they capture and they store carbon. So this smoke seedlings actually will grow into a big tree, and it's been feeding CO2. Wood is, of course, our classical energy source, and it will be an important to fossil fuels. And once we burn the wood, we can capture the CO2, and we can use the carbon in power to X fuels, or even convert them into other products. And it's a very important building material that can replace concrete and steel. So there's a lot of good reasons why forests and trees are recognized as important tools to address the climate change challenges. And of course, they're also important for recreation and biodiversity. Here there's a focus on the products, but as just mentioned before in the previous presentation, there's also a very important issue about trees in the landscape for agroforestry. There's also a very important challenge of trees in urban areas, actually providing shades in very warm urban areas. So there's a lot of good reasons why forests are considered a solution. Now, going back to this idea that within the lifetime of a person we will see major changes. Of course, if you think of the lifetime of a tree is old, maybe 600 years old tree, within the lifetime of a tree there will really be major changes. In the illustration from the IPCC, you may notice that they say that a warning climate change will of course continue beyond this 2100. And indeed, that means that the trees will going to probably to grow very climate. So now we have this issue. If we see the forests are a solution, but actually themselves will be challenged by climate change. So the key question will be, how do we really avoid that all these forests that we now plant, these billion of trees, actually, before they reach their maturity, actually die from being exposed to the effect of climate change. So this would be like a focus of this talk, which is also a focus of our research in my group. Let me take you one example. This is a very important species around here. It's Pisa abies, Norway spruce. On the slide you can see, if I can get this to work. Okay, Okay, when you see on the, you have these on the panels, in the top panels you can see where Norway spruce is now growing native, and in the below panels you can see where we think it would be suitable in the future. The darker is suitable, and there are two. There are the left ones, which is the more mild climate scenario, and then you have the right, which is more extreme. And basically what we see here is that to this climate predictions, actually Norway spruce will not really thrive in a lot of the areas where they're very important today. So this is one species that will be most likely be challenged by the common climate, even within the next 100 years. And then we have all the pesticides, and there are many. There are the ones that we already know. that can become more severe, but there's also a lot of pests and pathogens out there that is likely to become a challenge in the future. So this combination of trees being weakened by climate adaptation combined with new pests and pathogens is of course a real dangerous cocktail. So what should we do about it? Well, I mean, we need to adapt, and the research question will, how do we then really ensure that our forests remain healthy so they can serve as a solution? And of course, what we do in science, as you know already, what we do in science is, of course, we try to learn from nature. And what do we do? Well, we know that forest grows almost everywhere. I've been working in a huge number of countries, from the Sahel to rainforest in Southeast Asia to southern boreal forest. I mean, you can find trees everywhere. So they have a fantastic ability to speciate, to cover all kinds of ecosystems. We also know that within species we have a lot of geographic variation. I took this picture of beech, which is considered the national forestry in Denmark, a species that probably will have a hard time in the future. And you can see it actually grows in Denmark, but it also grows a bit here in Lithuania. It also grows in Spain, it grows in Italy. And if we go in and compare how the different populations perform, they do perform very differently. And we actually have some, if we take like beech from Hungary, it will be very different, growing very different compared to beech from Denmark. So we have options there. And then, very interesting, we also observe that for most of these fitness traits that are challenging, actually there's a huge diversity present in the populations. So trees are extremely diverse. I'll just take you a few examples. This is a species called Acertanus, getting more increasingly important of Europe. And this is a bit sensitive drought. And in 2018, some of you remember we had a very dry summer. And when we observe, we see here that there's actually variation. So this is showing a distribution of offspring and how offspring from this was exposed, was actually influenced by the drought stress. And we see that on the left, see that actually a small fraction of that had very little symptoms. There were also some which had very high symptoms, and then most were so intermediate. So this is actually a direction, because we know that because it was a direct. So we have variation here. For example, ash dieback was leaving the ash trees, causing huge problems, and this is introduced from Asia that is now damaging the European ash tree. It actually started here in the Baltic region, and now a problem all over. Look at this picture, you can see there's a few trees that seems to be less affected than other ones. And we have genetic studies. This is we have a clonal trial that was established, and you can see on the left side, in 2008, most of the trees have actually been killed by this disease, but some actually survived. And on the right, 10 years later, this few genotypes have very relevance, and still these single trees, they actually are surviving this disease. We know today from studies, it is only 2 to 5% of the trees that have this high tolerance, but it actually means that there are genetic diversity that we can work on. And genetic diversity is important because it's actually, as we learn from the Darwin evolutionary theory, that actually genetic diversity is for species to be able to adapt. So what kind of solution can we find? I mean, the fact that we have different species means that we can start to move species. This is the common oak, which is very common in large part of Europe. It's also important here, as you can picture here, in this part of the Baltics. In the future, it will probably also remain here, but less so. But then we have relative species, oak, Quercus petrea, which is actually a species that seems much more adapted to this region in the future. And there's actually an interesting issue, I'll come back to that, that these two species can hybridize and exchange genes. So we can see here that there are that are not in the area, but can actually quite important. And there are many examples. This is not that many of you would know probably from the fruits, but it's actually important timber species, tree species in the more southern part of Europe. Now, it's definitely not native to this, but according to the climate predictions, it can be very, very suitable for growing here. Pinus pinasta, our pine, I mean, this is very far from a forest species these days. But again, the climate predictions say maybe even the 100 years become a very important species. And there are so many, if you go through them, there are so many. There are different sawbush, there are also some tree hazels, there are walnuts, and a number of species that could be important for the future. And of course, you could say to move species is quite dramatic. That's what nature has done already. If you go back to look at what happened after the glaciations, we saw the big changes, of course, with species moving. The thing here is, of course, they move very fast. And this is only a year ago, longer time back from, go back to a million years. So you find a lot of species that used to be here disappeared. One species that was now getting very important in European forest is this Douglas fir, Pseudosuga menziesi. And you can see it's a North American species with a huge distribution area. And actually it was introduced to Denmark more than 100 years ago. Actually very well. This picture of Denmark is the tallest tree in Denmark. It's 4 meters tall, taller than any other species or any other trees in Denmark. This is how the species actually can contribute a lot. And this species has a drought production which is much higher than any species. Or you can see a fiber farm. This is actually a species that could fit into forestry, get very old and produce valuable timber. So assisted migration is something that seems quite, but there's a lot of course, challenges and biological applications. I mean, first, if you want to move stuff from a similar climate, what is similar climate? What is a similar climate in terms of temperature may be very different in terms of rainfall and also seasonality, or you could say the continentality, the difference between cold winters. And without giving any details on those, just actually not so easy to define what is the analog climate. Also, and other challenges, what if when some kind of extreme events happens, how can we make sure that they'll be adapted for these things? How will they cope with local pests and pathogens if we move them into our biosphere? How can they outcompete the native species? Are we creating some invasions? Are they supporting the native biodiversity? And also we look at ecosystem rather than species. You may notice all the recent presentation that in agroecology we had a lot of focus on the microbiome and understanding this interaction with the associated fungi and bacteria. We study, when we look in our group, we look on the ash trees. We find that there, in the leaf of an ash, find 280 different fungi living there within the cells, between the cells, and of course this have a very this whole the understanding the role of the microbiome of trees are very now in agriculture, and trust me, it's even more important in these complex ecosystems. And then again, migration. I mean, trees are not only biological organisms wood products. It's also cultural heritage. I've been showing this picture a few times of the oak. It's one of these. We have a project actually where we studied together with forest historians and scientists the role of this for humans, and these things also have to see. So this is there are actually a lot of challenges. Therefore, I mean, Plan A, when we do research, the Plan A will still be to how can we really develop robust forests with locally adapted gene pools, but we need a Plan B where we try to increase use of more southern origins, non-native genetic origins, but the same species, and simply to enrich the gene. And maybe again, if we look at the actual extreme climate we look into, we probably also would need new species. I mean, that is apparently what, if we predict the climate change where the species grow, it seems like we also would need to work on that. Put that like a time span, because it's an important issue here. And of course, as time moves on, then the climate change most likely get more. We move more towards from plan A to plan C. But we are dealing with a very long span. We need to already now to start to combine these things and to do research to understand how we can do this, implement these strategies as the best as possible. So the challenges are big, but then again, as a research society, also we are very happy because we have really important tools. In the previous presentation about these infrastructures, and there, so when we want to local adaptations, we can look at the insistence between the environment, the genus, and the phenotypes. There are different ways to do that, and I just put some keywords there. But say very important is that we have these trials, that we can do the phenotypes, and it takes time. The bad news working with trees is that these fields, sometimes it will take like maybe 30 or 40 years to start to have the results. But I have a good news, and that is our 30 to 40 years ago, they made these trials. Some in Denmark with Douglas fir. We have a collection from Douglas fir origins in Denmark, collecting all over distribution area and planting in the late 70s. So actually, we have the phenotypes, and there are so many out there that we can very, very important infrastructure. And of course, it's important because we can combine them with methodologies. And today we have these modern technologies coming for trees. Some of you may, I mean, at least those guys can remember in 2000 when the human reference genome for the human was a big event. It was transmitted simultaneously between the US and the UK. And it took 15 years to make this reference genome, and the cost was something like $7 billion US dollars. Now, actually, in working, for example, the way 25 years later, we then, in my little small tiny research group in Denmark, we now have whole genome sequences for more than 600 trees, covering oaks and genomes for a huge number of species. The cost for making a reference genome today is $2.7 billion US dollars, but something maybe 15,000 euros. So this just one, I just end my presentation. Just a few examples. This is about the interact and exchange genes. We have some oak species which are more adapted to drought than other ones, and they do hybridize every now and then. And we can think this is a bit busy slide, but you must imagine what we see here. Each panel is a comparison of this, and it's the pletra against Plerus, and here different colors. You have the chromosomes, so you have here along the chromosomes you have all these the genes and the polymorphisms, and the higher peaks you see here, it seems where the parts of the genome where the between these two species. So based on that, we can really try to look and find genes which seems to be related to the difference between the species. And there are so many things. These are technologies that we work in my small group. We work with genome-wide associations with phenotypes, also with environments. We work with pangenomes, which is really pangenomes is an approach where we can actually also to look at present absence genes. Microbiology, there are bacteria that keeps resistant genes, not resistant genes. Maybe we have the same issue in plants and trees, that actually it's not about what kind of genes, it's actually whether you have the gene or not. So this is called structural variants. They're about adaptation through integration that I mentioned, that is also could be a very important tool. There's epigenetic regulations, that is so something coming up and is getting really hot, and we can study that. Even in trees, agriculture again is far ahead of us. And then there's this microbiome and what we call the holobionts, which is also important. So with all these tools, can really develop this climate, can science really provide society with this climate-ready trees? And yes, I mean, there are challenges. First of all, I mean, we have to actually coping with, in the old days, maybe we thought an issue of high precision forestry, you could develop your plant material to fit the environment objectives. But actually, we don't know what the environment will be like. We really don't really know the objectives either, do we? I mean, what would really be the for also, I mean, management, I mean, there's a lot towards close to nature forestry. So we need to think of solutions that actually are visible, but certainly are able to make solutions that can support this transition toward the economy. And we have to look for things which are actually acceptable, robust, and adaptable. So my slide will be about 2 examples of products that we work with. This is a important product. It's called Forest, and there's a lot of work packages here. I had the work package on how to develop breeding that we use and promote the diversity. But also here we look at all the other aspects, how we're going to there's a nursery sector, and that's about the social, how can we integrate these things, economy, and develop, co-create social adaptive solutions. It's another product because hopefully the take-home message from my talk should be the how nature evolved to extremes, and so we have to how to monitor and conserve the resources. And another product called Diverse Gene Watch, which actually coordinated here from this city, where we try to class across countries to make joint efforts on this. Conclusions: trees are diverse. They do offer valuable solutions, but we must be ready for changes. So business as usual will probably not work. I suppose a lot of things would say that we need to have priority for flexible solutions with room for adaptations, and that international cooperation is really important because of this species and climate change would challenge the classical borders. We have for societal feed and acceptable solutions, and but the good thing is that science really offers solutions. But my take-home message, that was also the title of this talk, I think really trust in the diversity, and we should learn from what we can see from nature. Okay, thank you for attention. Thank for the agencies and I have this picture from colleagues from the group. It's from a relay. Every year we run a relay together, and you can see here we are the Red Queens that can take vision from research to action. So thank you.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. Now it's time for questions.
Yes, thank you. Very interesting to hear, and also I would like to ask you in connection with agricultural sector, because we have to share this conference with people, and you showed that we in forests actually now meet this problem of and pests that are booming in our diverse forests, and working to fight these challenges by increasing genetic diversity. But how would you comment, and what would be your wishes for agricultural sector that have crops that have no diversity at all, that are cultivars that are, genetically identical, and maybe also say that our sectors are standing by side if agricultural farms look a bit more far than they see these forests surrounding them, and how would all these pathogens, wouldn't they have their relatives and brothers that would be keen to attack the agricultural sector, and is the agricultural sector really prepared for those challenges related to climate change?
I will not start agriculture. I know all the experts are here, but I will say that I, of course, very close together with agriculture. And again, I would say when it comes to this concept called evolutionary breeding, try to breed and use the evolution process in breeding. Also, their agriculture sector is quite advanced, and I'm sure other people in this room will know about that. But I think also they said that working with in varieties and so on is actually something which is also very important in agroecology. The question to the room.
I have also one question, which comes from farmers on a workshop in Italy, people in South, they are asking if forests would contribute to increasing precipitation because of scarce regions, and they even brought that question, such question for researchers to answer. What is your opinion to that? Thank you.
Again, I'm afraid I'm not an expert at that, but I do say that actually something is actually intriguing from observing science is that there's now this focus actually that actually contribute to more rainfall than people was previously thinking, because there is something about aerosol formation, a lot of things going on, and the research from Finland actually has shown that actually, I mean, are really complex ecosystem that also interacts with the weather systems in interesting ways. So I think that's also something we should acknowledge, that the forest has to serve so many purposes. And when I say it's difficult to design the perfect tree, maybe when I was very young and I started to study, I thought maybe I can do some transgenic plants and I can make these fantastic trees that grow exactly in this environment and have this form and can do these things, and then I mean the bubble exploded, because I mean we don't really know what the forest, how the forest will be able to grow in the future. We don't know what kind of service it provide, and all the time we do know that they have to serve a lot of purposes at the same time, and we do know that they have to be challenged by many things. And I would not try to breed for not bring an ash tree which is tolerant back. Ash trees that with ash back, but also maintain that diversity. Because after the ash back, there will be the emerald ash borer. After the ash borer, there will be something else taking the thing. I'm afraid.
So thank you for your questions. Thank you for interesting presentation once again. Big applause, please. Sustainability in education and regional competence is essential for a thriving bioeconomy. In context, we are honored to welcome Dr. Anita Rimäki, Dean of the School of Biotechnology and Natural Resources, Finland. Her research focuses on sustainability in food and higher education management, and she leads key initiatives in Finnish bioeconomy education, including chairing national and international committees and contributing to the evaluation of higher education programs. She will present PIS in Finland, the role of University of Applied Sciences in regional competence creation in bioeconomy. Please welcome, the floor is yours.
Be here. And now I take this actually to human beings from very interesting keys and very interesting farming systems. My passion is sustainability in Asian. This talk is basically very administrational. So I will talk about AKI's system and how we actually make it happen in Finland from my perspective. But still it's about sustainability. In order to have resilient rural areas, we need knowledge, and we need knowledge at all levels of the actors of the system. So this is what I will talk about. And my talk will be kind of a loop. I will start with introducing a bit about my environment where I work. And I will go back to the university after European administration. So how I managed to walk you through. AKIS, if that is not clear to everybody, is agriculture, knowledge and innovations in Europe. And it's present in all Europeans, but in different ways. Variation in depending on a country, on conditions, on activity of local actors. But this is where I come from. We have seen, I'm happy that we have seen the map of Finland already. But here is Finland, and the red dots are campuses of my university. So we are located, Häme University of Applied Science, located to southern Finland. Basically, we are Hämeenlinna, the main campus is about 1 hour north from Helsinki. We are a community of about 1,000 people. 10,000, sorry, that was a big mistake. 10,000 people, students and staff members all together. I talked about sustainability. I'm very proud of the strategy we have. We talk about ourselves as better makers. I think this is a really nice in English and very nice also. Parastaja. And what it really means is actions we take. When we launch a new strategy, we make a question among young people about how they see their future and what do they want to do in the future. And not dependent on a discipline they want to study, they wanted to make a change. They want to do things that have meaning, that have value in it. And we want to answer that, so that's why we call ourselves better makers. So we are using our knowledge, search our education to serve the wish of the young people. Already opening talk and the after we heard about multidisciplinarity, and this is very funny. Like 10 years ago, maybe when I started as a dean, multidisciplinarity of our university was considered to be kind of a downside of our organization because we are not focused enough to one discipline. After that, after some IPCC reports, we understood actually multidisciplinarity is the only way to solve the problems in the world. And we heard already how agriculture, how farming is by nature already multidisciplinary. Not only that in farming you need to use biology, chemistry, physics, whatever disciplines, but also nowadays when smart farming is more and more common, and when we need to consider the whole society when we make changes, when we produce food and we talk about food security in this insecure world, we have understood disciplinarity actually the strength of our university. So here you can see the educational fields we are open on. I'm the dean of the School of Biotechnology and Natural Resources, and that's the discipline that really makes it that differs from other universities of applied sciences in Finland. Now I go to the European, or actually slides from our here you can see that the objective of the common agricultural policy are the same as the objectives of agriculture knowledge and innovation in Europe. How do you see the slide? Well, quite well. On the top, the light green box, that is about farming, the technology research in farming, education farming, knowledge of the farmers, of the technological in future. The second green box on the left is about environment. Sustainability we need to consider, and the climate factors we need to be aware of when we operate. The last box is about strengthening the socio-economic structure of rural areas. So actually AKIS is also a very multidisciplinary way of working in rural areas. And cross-cutting objectives are on the right, increasing the competence of the areas, the digitalization, and also the collaboration between different actors. Here is a slide of all the actors in AKIS, what we want to combine in this action. In every country, AKIS combines the farmers, the forest owners also, the administration, research and education, and private sectors. These are the four important sectors we want to combine. And then on the outer circle, there is research programs, media, advisory organization, and rural network. If you learn more about AKIS in Europe, this is actually the paper you should take a look at. This is deliverable 1.10 of modern AKIS project. And there is actually a very good comparison of how AKIS is present in different European countries. It's very interesting and very, very good introduction to the AKIS world. And you can find very interesting details about actions in your own country also. I took one table from this. When we discuss about different European countries, it looks very different. And if there is more, if everything is not green, it's maybe not a fault of the organization in a certain country. It also tells about the different situation and of culture of collaboration between different actors in the country. So just as an example, very green on the top are, for example, Belgium, France. And this is very interesting. In France AKIS, the strongest AKIS functioners are actually the private organizations. And in Belgium, a very strong AKIS actor are the experimental farms and the research. So there is a different, but still all the collaborators are taken into account. Where do those come from? In Birke et al., which is referenced there, they made a cross-analysis of different publications which mention AKIS, and they estimated how many times different actors are mentioned in these papers. Very easy now, we are in Lithuania, I come from Finland, so both countries from a bit down from the sector of this huge table. So in our countries, actually the public authorities, research and education, and commerce are quite well covered when we discuss AKIS and how we collaborate in AKIS. But then the third sector and private companies are not that strong in both countries, in Lithuania and in Finland. I can talk about why it is. Private companies, they have their own networks and for example, own advisory organizations. So it's not that crucial for them to be so strongly part of a national or European network. But we work still to get everything. Because I think it's collaboration is really the key to keep the rural areas livable. Here you can see the Finnish approach to AKIS. So knowledge transfer is really on the top. AKIS for us is really how to promote knowledge transfer from research to education and to the farmers. And here the advisory organizations are most important, and I will discuss that a bit later. We have very strong cross-cutting knowledge transfer training and advisory services, as I said, system, and that is also mentioned in our CAP plan, so Common Agriculture Policy Plan for Finland, underlines these actions. Innovation also outside the agricultural sector is very much promoted. So we try to find more interdisciplinary collaboration AKIS network. Look at the box all the time. This is not a system. So for us, basically very much similar as here in Lithuania, administration, the high administration of the nation is on the top. So Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry is leading partner in this Finnish AKIS system. And then on the left-hand side, we have the rural network with European Rural Development money. And then we have Agrihubi. I will discuss this later. Agrihubi is a Finnish network, which is basically the organ that gives the act to AKIS in Finland, and the coordinator of our AKIS actions is Natural Resource Institute, LUKE, mentioned already in the book. AKIS and European Innovation Program are really interconnected. So when we talk about agriculture knowledge and innovation system, we very much work together with the innovation program of the whole Europe. Then I'll move a bit to Agrihubi, which is like how AKIS is written to Finnish CAP program. Agrihubi is farmers' competence work. Agrihubi brings together agricultural and horticultural operators in whole country. Farmers, of course, farmers are in the middle. And then we have the advisory sector, the educators, research, and also the companies from this sector, working together for the farmers. We recognize that especially business competencies and smart competencies are in focus in Finland. We need to educate ourselves and also the farmers more in order to increase profitability of farming in Finland. And that's the whole goal of the network. Here you can see the network. So you can see that the agribusiness is in the middle, and then we have education, stakeholders, and research, consumer, and enterprises covering the agribusiness. All much work together in order to promote agribusiness in Finland. And now I go to my own environment. How do I work as a university representative in AKIS? What is my role? It's very, when we talk about resilience and sustainability, it's very important also for all the actors to recognize their own role in the network. I can't do all. I need to precisely know where I stand and what are strengths, what can I bring to the work to make it better. And this is work now. A big problem in Finland is that we need more up-to-date information about substance to our teachers at the universities. They are experts, they are very experts, but to keep up with the pace we have in the development of agriculture, we need really up-to-date information for the teachers. It comes, of course, from the research also, what we do, but those who are very in the education, they need more. And then we have advisory organizations, which work very close to the farmers, and they are really the crucial partners in order to transfer the knowledge from the research to the farmers and really to the practice. So this is our focus right now. In the title of my talk, I talked about autonomy. I don't jump away from the agriculture with bioeconomy. For me, I know that there are different explain bioeconomy in a different, but bioeconomy for me is the added value from natural resources and bioprocesses. So forest and agriculture for me are part of bioeconomy. On the map here, there is a map of Finland again. You can see the universities of applied sciences which have education in natural resources. I said that different from other universities in Finland when we have this education, but we have our difference is that we have all the disciplines of natural resources. I'm very proud to talk about my university because basically I can talk from field back to the field, and we educate in all the degree programs. Other universities of applied sciences, they have, for example, agriculture or forestry bioprocesses. But the key here is that we are to whole Finland. So actually the universities of applied sciences, local advisory organizations, they form a network like local regional hubs which cover the whole Finland. And this is very important for us. I underline it because we are an extremely long country. The climate is very different. I know from the previous talk, there's a big if you work with agriculture or forestry close to the Arctic Circle or my area close to Helsinki. So you talk about different climate, light climate, for example. So this is a strength for us. And we have developed digital platform apart from AKIS, but now it's a tool for us. Higher education institutions in Finland have a common platform for all the education we provide. So we use this platform, and we use the platform that we have created our AKIS AgriHubi, and we offer the farmers. What have I written here? The farmers, the degree students in bioeconomy, and also from administration and third sector education, which is produced by the universities and by advisory organizations. Peer learning is here the key also. We don't want to make in AKIS, we don't make a that university provides to everybody. We want really to promote peer learning. So we learn my staff learns from the advisors, and advisors get the newest knowledge from our researchers and our professors. So this network is for the good of farmers and strong rural areas from whole Finland is available to make a difference. We are not very big universities. Our university is the biggest in the natural resources education, university in applied sciences. So we have experts all around Finland. These digital platforms are really a good tool for us and really can make a big difference in the education for farming Finland. And I think it makes the AKIS also stronger. But the key is here that you find your own role. My last slide, and I can tell from this slide, it's very important slide, and I use it a lot in my talks, because I talk a lot about finding your role and your own strength and the way you make the world more sustainable. This is not my way. I'm here actually in the lake. As you can see, I'm removing the plant species that is not that does not belong to our nature. And I was happy to do this work, even in this picture. But a few seconds later, I figured out that the bigger species in Finland lives among these plants. And even that I am a biologist, very much afraid of spiders, so it's not my way to make the world better. So you need to find your own role. But thank you.
So thank you for amazing presentation. And now we have time for a few questions. So
thank you very much for your presentation, and I would like to ask you from your perspective as an educator. As you discuss what we need of education in the bioeconomy, okay, sorry. So that's what it is need today, the education in bioeconomy. As well, you started the presentation what today we need multi-skills. So what is your opinion? Does we have this separate study programs for bioeconomy, or we integrate in already maybe different of the studies programs, some skills, some specific course for that? Thank you.
Thank you for a very good question, and that could be a subject for a different talk. I dream about transdisciplinarity. I dream about education where experts from the different disciplines work together and create something totally new, like a new growth on the trees, like new leaves. In practice, I think we can't forget that we also need very deep substance-based knowledge from different disciplines. So often I talk about T-shaped learning. So we have the vertical bar of the T as a substance, as a one discipline knowledge you have. Then you have the horizontal part of the T, and that's more general knowledge of the subject. Like you could say that this is agriculture and this is bioeconomy. So how deep you go to the agriculture actually, how wide knowledge you need bioeconomy, and how do you combine different disciplines? I think this is the key. But my dream is that we could create something new as bioeconomy. We have tried it. We have one program where we combined on a transdisciplinary bioeconomy or natural resources degree program and an IT program. And this is quite good. We have had it now for maybe about 10 years. But it's very difficult. So I think in practice, at the universities, you work more on a multidisciplinary way where you really work close to each other and for a common goal. So not an easy question to answer.
Hello, I'm Norhayati Bentinayan. I'm representing delegation from State Minister of Selangor, a state in Malaysia. To share briefly, we recently conducted a study visit to Metsä Group in Finland last year, and we are very impressed if the industry Metsä Group is owned by Metsalito Cooperative, which they have almost 10,000 forest owners in Finland managing 5.5 million hectares of forest land. So I was particularly interested in your presentation just now on how your country engage the younger generation to participate in AKIS. So could you kindly please share with us some tips or best practice on attracting and encouraging youth involvement? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that you have visited our country. To get young people now about our university, what we do, we have two ways of giving education, and as I think most of the universities, we have kind of what we call daytime studies. So the students come to the university every day and work from 8 to 4 later as studying. And then we part-time study where the students can at the same time be in a work life and do studies mostly online, but also in our campuses. My universities, we have 3 campuses for natural resources. So we have our own farm, we have our own educational forest, and we have our own horticulture campus. And how we use these campuses is that we are very much work-life orientated. The students work directly with the companies from the start. Well, now I lie, not from the start. Maybe the first months they use more our premises, our education infrastructure to learn the practicalities of the work and the technologies of, for example, farming, but start to work really with the companies. So the companies give challenges to the students, and students work in a modules of 8 weeks, and they solve the challenges that the companies. It can be private farmers or the forest owners that give the challenges, but the students work with that. And I think especially after pandemia, now started to see that this way of working, that the students work in longer modules, they work with in our very much practical orientated environments where we combine the theory and the practice and the work life. It's something that really is interesting for the young people also. So we see that this is something they want, how they want to study and how they want to work. And we also, how we get students to the agriculture and forestry, we do a lot with all the universities of applied sciences and also with academic universities to market our studies. So collaboration again. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, question. So,
and thank you for your presentation. I want to learn, do you use in spatial information technologies flying echoes in your country? Any spatial information, for example, for any applications in the mobile phone or any other application do you use?
No, not really. We have our own platform for Akisim, but then of course, if we think about smart agriculture, so they have different kind of applications. But for Akis as a network, it's only the digital platform for the whole network. I don't know if I answered your question. Yeah.
okay, thank you, Mona Anita. I think we can leave the discussion during the coffee break, yes. So thank you very much. I think it's time for coffee, so enjoy, have a good discussion. The coffee break is until 11:00. Ensuring food security while protecting ecosystems requires innovative approach in plant health and sustainable farming. It is therefore my pleasure to invite Professor Dimitris Tsitsianis, Agricultural University of Athens, Greece. With over 30 years of experience in plant pathology, he leads a research group pioneering integrated pest management strategies that combine biocontrol, artificial intelligence, and digital precision agriculture. Today he will present harnessing the power of digital technologies to protect the environment. So, Professor, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thanks for the invitation to present our latest development on smart farming, a term that the last 10 years is used quite a lot in agriculture. And I will try to demonstrate how technology basically drives innovation for plant health and safety. So, agriculture engineers done an amount of work toward basically the modernization of our equipment that we are using in agriculture. Now we have launched the Agriculture 4.0, which is basically evolution. And but if we could see the in agriculture or predict the unpredictable and act with precision. This is what basically can offer the smart digital technologies and AI technologies, as I will demonstrate to you. So, artificial intelligence and robotics now actually being used quite a lot in agriculture. Actually, now there is a robot site in the lawn in the turf grass that is cleaning the turf grass by itself. And here you can see a lot of machinery, especially in houses. Or I was in China 2 years ago and I saw tractors that was doing plowing an orchard without the presence of a farmer. So in my case, I'm a plant path, I'm working with action, and what basically we do is to use these tools, digital technologies and AI, in order to be able to predict the plant diseases, to diagnose the diseases, and of course to control the plant diseases. This is so-called IPM, Integrated Management Systems. So how to use the digital technologies and AI? We are developing novel IoT approaches like optical or olfactory sensors, drones, satellites, for remote plant disease diagnosis and territory surveillance, plant disease prediction models, smart traps for pests, discovery of novel biocontrol plant protection products, microbial, biostimulants, RNA technologies. Now is the major focus for the plant protection enterprises actually and companies at the moment. Smart system and decision support systems. I'm sorry, but the illumination is not very clear. Projector. Here you can see an overall view of the different sensors and platforms that we are using, like satellites imaging, in order to basically predict the different diseases. And I will start with a smart system for plant disease diagnosis. At the moment, we have many sensors that we can basically install crops in our farms, and in order to monitor on the basis basically what is the environmental conditions that we have in a particular crop. So the prediction models that predict diseases and plant pests, they collect basically data that can be used in order to develop post-harvest prediction models for the dynamic simulation of plant pathogen life cycle along growing season. And the goal basically is to predict the level of risk of disease or, for instance, mycotoxins, which are compounds carcinogenic produced by plant pathogens. And then we have the risk maps that can be modified also with maps under the influence of certain management scenarios. Here you see an experimental that we have. These are grapes. It's a pilot with the table grape varieties. Here we have installed a weather station with an instrument also to measure wetness and the soil moisture. And then we're using commercial, now there are quite a lot, the system from BSF, the AgriGenius system, that in order to be able to predict diseases that we have in grapes, both diseases and also insects. So we can have recording every day hour of the rain temperature, relative humidity, the leaf wetness, and then we have this nice actually view that can tell us for major diseases, such as, for instance, powdery mildew, we have a risk. So you see here that indicator is on red. So that means that the conditions are favorable for this. And here you can see from 16th of May and for instance, 16 and for 15 days, what is the risk? If it is green, we don't have risk. If we have red, it is a high risk. So when there is risk, immediately the farmer method, that's to apply particular protection product in order to protect his crop. So in this case, the farmer doesn't go and spray it whenever he wants. Okay, the system when is the suitable period in order to spray with a particular site. And the good also is with this system, they can tell you how long particular fungicide under the specific environmental condition can last, because after a period the fungicide is not working, so again we might have a high risk. So all the information are now basically gives cell. Of course, there are companies like Metals that has several tools now for diseases for many crops, as you can see here, and we also are developing with a particular other systems for Transliacijos for pathogen is called Aspergillus flavus that produces aflatoxins. So on the phenology of the tree and the life pathogen, create a specific with characteristics for both the crop and the pathogen. We can have a model like this that you can see Greece, where the hot spots basically are the risk for this particular toxin is quite high. So the producer has to take the appropriate measures in order to minimize this particular risk and not let the fungus to produce this particular dangerous toxin. So another aspect that we use the digital technologies is about diagnosis and pest surveillance. So here, unfortunately, you don't see it very well. You see a grape leaf that has very similar symptoms. For us, for the plant pathologists, sometimes it's extremely difficult to identify what's the cause of the disease. So we have to go through extensive biochemical or molecular studies in order to identify the particular cause. So this is, for instance, toxicity of weedicides, the plant protection products that we use to kill the weeds in a particular field. Here are a particular virus or a viroid, or we have deficiencies. So in this case, it's quite difficult. So we wanted basically to see, can we use optical sensors, okay, in order to identify this particular disease with a multispectral camera, hyperspectral camera, thermal camera, and so on. So a particular disease can cause completely different physiological changes and morphological changes in the plants. So here are different 3 diseases of beet, and the reflectance basically of each disease is quite different. So we tried to measure basically this reflectance in order to be able to create a particular signature, spectral signature as we call, in order to be able to differentiate 3 different diseases. So this is the healthy plant, and this is 3 different diseases, net blots, rust, and powdery mildew. So each one of them, we can create a particular signature. So that is going to be identical for all the particular pathogen that we are interested in. And then with this case, we might be able to differentiate only with a multispectral camera what's the cause of the disease instead of doing molecular analysis in our laboratory. And the most important thing is to try to see the disease before we see the symptoms. This is quite critical for most of the diseases, powdery mildew, rust, for instance, downy mildew, because the farmer has to spray basically before see the symptoms of the disease. If the symptoms, for instance, is more than 10–15%, farmer is unable to do anything, because even with quite strong fungicides. So we try to see the disease at the very, very early stages in order to be able to act at that time of point. So here you can see basically wheat infected with Fusarium graminearum. You can see how we can basically see it with a multispectral camera. And also we can use other kind of cameras, such as thermal cameras. You don't see any symptoms here, but you can see it with a thermal camera, but it's a little bit more difficult to be applied in the field. And now there are a lot of companies that are trying to develop worldwide a lot of this kind of machinery that can be used actually in the real world. And here we need actually the help of artificial intelligence, because we really need to train the system, the new developed systems, with a huge number of pictures that we are collecting. And so in this case, we have to develop quite, the informaticians, they have to develop quite advanced systems. So basically what eventually we want is to try to be able to do, with a satellite image, for instance, to identify the hotspots of a particular disease in a field, as you can see here, because in this case, we can actually act quite immediately. And also you can see here, it's a huge field. So here we have basically an outbreak of a particular disease in this particular area, so we can act with a particular, for instance, plant protection product only in that particular area instead of applying to the whole field. And there are a lot also of applications that are using this kind of sensors in order to differentiate with a high confidence the different diseases. And informaticians are measuring also basically the performance of the AI tools based on the different models that they are using. And we have cases that they perform quite very well. So in another project that we had with Professor Spiros Foudas from my university, who is an agriculture engineer, we were coordinating together this project. We have developed these particular cameras. So you can see here the tractor that is going among the grape lanes. Here you can see downy mildew. So we have developed a particular spectral signature. And you can see here, basically, the ground truth, what the plant pathologists see, and the detection level, which is quite good for this particular case. So the system basically can define where the disease is. And then we have to take a lot of pictures that are going to process through very strong computers in order to have the appropriate classification levels. So the informaticians are using quite a lot of different kind of convolutional neural networks in order basically to train the particular systems. And eventually we will be able to identify prescription maps for in a particular grapevine, for instance, case that there is not flat, it's on a hill, and you can see that there are some areas in this particular field that the risk of a particular disease is quite high. So I'm currently coordinating another big project, basically utilizing the digital technologies in order to basically try to identify from using remote sensing technologies, quarantine and regulated non-quarantine pests. Just to inform you that quarantine pests is basically the pests that are absent from an area, or they are present but aren't under official control. Whereas the regulated non-quarantine pests, the RNQPs, are pests that are already present in an area, but we have to take special measures in order to control them. So basically, with this particular project, we try to develop basically novel plant pest monitoring strategies with real-time pest surveillance systems. Then we're testing and validate in real use case pilots in different countries, and then we will provide support to the farmers with educational material and different other kind of synergies. So this project has 14 partners. Lithuania is also one of our partners. And for the early warning system, we're using energy autonomous stationary IoT devices, smart insect traps, as well as smart spore traps, which is new technologies for fungi that is expanding actually the last 2 years. And of course, the weather stations in order to have novel real-time early warning tools by fusing different types of incoming data. And then our partner from Italy, Professor Tito Caffi, is basically developing the pest models, broad pest models for different kinds of pathogens that we have in the project in order to basically be able to predict when we can have an epidemic behavior, to define the risk assessment and the disease control methods. So this is the strategy that we're using for pest modeling for different categories of very important pests. And we're using bioclimatic indices for mycelia growth, bacterial manipulation, in order to define basically the risk of possible spread. For the pest detection system, we're using the Copernicus satellite program with aerial imagery, also both RGB and spectral, with a drone, especially that have high spatial and temporal scales, in order to be able to detect pest and disease outbreak severity level and monitor the infected areas. And we're using also traps, as I told before, and for the proximal sensing, so the sensing that is basically down on the field, in the field, we are using this particular instrument from a company, Eden Viewer Scouting, and we're using a lot of robotics and also applications that can be used by citizens and inform us if they can see a particular symptom, for instance, in urban areas. So how we're doing that, and then basically we have the informaticians that are collecting this huge amount of proximal imaging, and in order basically to investigate with a different kind of systems the ability to detect efficiently the different diseases. Eventually, what we want is to have a response if we have an outbreak of this particular disease, especially if it is quarantine pathogen. We want to basically inform the phytosanitary services that we might have an outbreak of a particular important pathogen in the area in order to take all the appropriate counteractive measures and inform basically the EU authorities and so on. So all this stuff are going to be collected in a particular platform, the Stella platform, that is divided to early warning, pest early detection, and pest response. So this is the first stage of the platform, and we have we have selected 8 different pests, and in 5 countries. So, for instance, in France, we're dealing with very important viral diseases, and one viral disease and one phytoplasma. So you can see Unfortunately, you cannot see well the symptoms and the vectors here. And here you can see a tractor that has the viewer scouting, so that is going basically among between the lines and is collecting a lot of data. And we have insect traps that automatically basically can identify the species of the insect. And then, for instance, we have here a vineyard, we have weather station, we have insect traps, we have the proximal sensing data, we have drones, we have satellites. All these informations are collected basically in a particular system. So of course we have the ground truth, so we have the plant pathologists that can basically identify all the grapevines that are infected with a particular virus, and we take all the appropriate measures, and we compare also, we take the insects and we identify. Here is the proximal sensing, how it goes between the lines. And then we compare basically also the NDVI indices, all this data, the truth data from plant pathologists, the satellite imaging and all the other images in a system in order to basically everything can go to the platform that is going to give us, first of all, early warning systems and information, the pest detection where we have basically infected plants, and also the other information. In Italy, we deal also with another very important pathogen, Ralstonia solanacearum, and in Greece, we are using Verticillium dallega that has symptoms very close to Xylella fastidiosa, the pathogen, the bacterium that has killed a lot of olive trees in Italy, and we try to differentiate these two diseases. And another extremely important pathogen that has destroyed a lot of forest in Greece, which is called Ceratostistis platani, which is basically a fungal pathogen that is an emblematic tree for Greece because it's a tree that we have it in all of our villages and in all the riverbanks now have been completely destroyed. So what we basically want here is, can we use satellites or can we use drones in order to identify in a forest a particular tree that has been diseased? So it's like, for instance, we're using in Greece quite a lot now the drones to identify the fires in the forest, in the areas. So the first hot spots. So something similar we try to do also with these systems, digital systems in the forest too. In Lithuania, where our pilots is on potato and the potato with a potato leaf roller virus. And in New Zealand, we're working with a pathogen that we don't have in Greece. And here we're using, again, this technology, but also spore traps for the fungal spores. And citizen science approaches that can help also with the scouting of these particular diseases. Of course, finally, we want to educate stakeholders with all these results and the platform. And the most important thing, we have a specialized work package in order to provide policy recommendations to EU, how they can use the digital technologies and how they can make it laws in EU. So basically, this project has a holistic approach to address basically the current challenges in quarantine and regulated pathogens, but then can be transferred to other pathogens too. So I'm moving to the smart system from plant disease control. So the European Green Deal tells us that we have to reduce significantly the amount of pesticides that we are using, especially the synthetic pesticides. And now a lot of labs, including my research team, working quite a lot on development of biopesticides. So you can see here the trend of the production of biopesticides in the next 20 years compared to the synthetic fungicides that are dropping down. So the breakthroughs that we have basically in agriculture, biotechnology, and plant disease management is basically at the moment at the forefront of climate adaptation and food security. We have significant advances in synthetic biology, microbiome-based inputs, RNA-driven crop protection, and unlocking new levels of resilience. So breeders are utilizing also artificial intelligence technologies in order to accelerate the development of drought-resistant seeds, disease-tolerant crops, and biologically enhanced fertilizers. And the microbiome solution also are enhancing significantly the soil biodiversity and optimizing plant nutrition, ensuring higher yields even under extreme conditions. So the plant microbiome has actually shown us there is a huge actual potential to utilize it. So there are microbes everywhere in the plant, especially the root system has a huge diversity of microbes. So we as scientists are trying basically to try to identify potential agents, microbes that are beneficial for the plant, but also they can kill basically the plant pathogens. So, of course, the research has, the last 20, 30 years has been advanced quite a lot, and we know exactly how the different beneficial microorganisms can basically induce the plant immunity system. They can induce systemic acquired resistance or other systems in order to make basically the plant stronger in order to control and withstand the basically plant disease invasion, plant pathogen. And there are basically different ways. So we can, if we identify a particular biocontrol agent, we can then apply it either as a foliar spray or as a root drenching, or we can basically cover the seed in order to improve the health of the seed and so on. There are a lot now of commercial products that can basically provide a consortium, as we call it, of many different microbes with many different attributes that can basically help, not only basically they help, they act as biostimulants, they increase the yield and the plant health, and also they can have also some control approaches towards some diseases. So in my lab, for instance, we have identified some yeast, especially Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that we're using also for the fermentation of the wine. And you can see here the control is completely rotten, but when we apply the mixed yeast, this is from commercial fields, we can have a significant control against Aspergillus carbonarius and Botrytis cinerea, two important pathogens that rot basically the grape berries. So you can see here the control. This is one yeast that basically is completely healthy. Another important disease that we're working quite a lot is Aspergillus flavus in corn that produces aflatoxin. And the results from Professor Paolo Battilani from Italy indicate that with an increase of the climate of the temperature by 2%, the Mediterranean area will have huge problems with aflatoxin contamination in maize, which is a major problem that we have in corn. So we have basically identified several microbes, fungi, non-toxigenic fungi, bacteria, and yeast that we apply either as spray technologies or in the field. And here you can see that we have a significant decrease of aflatoxin in the field. So this is the control, 1,200 ppb, and with a different fungi, yeast, or bacteria, we can basically eliminate quite significantly the aflatoxin. And there are many other groups actually that are doing similar things, and they have found quite successful biocontrol agents. However, why we don't patent or what we don't commercialize all these products, all this, because unfortunately, in order to register a new biological pesticide in Europe, we need between 3 and 5 million euros for a period between 5 and 10 years. And this is actually that is it's not easy, even for the companies, to do it, okay? Another approach that we are taking for the control is the gene therapy, basically using new technologies such as the RNAi technologies. So a lot of companies now, they are using same technology as was being used for COVID, for instance, to create RNAi-based biopesticides. So this is a company from the United States, basically, that has RNAi-based pesticides that are under commercialization. And there are actually, this is the different pathogens that also they are the first one is under registration process. And there are some experiments also in Europe in order to basically test the efficacy of this particular RNA pesticides. In the United States, it's much easier basically to register biopesticides, and EPA in the United States basically allows the novel RNA pesticides for 3 years. And finally, with the smart spraying systems, as you probably all know, the problem that we had with agricultural machinery, and especially the spray system, is the huge drift that we can see. So basically 80% of the pesticides are going to the environment, and they're not targeted to the particular crop that we are interested. So we had the project Optima that we wanted basically with 3 companies to create basically and construct 3 different new spray machinery in order to basically adopt a variable rate control and include a lot of smart components in order to be able, the machinery to be able to spray when it can only see the canopy of the tree or the crop and not to spray everywhere, and also to adjust automatically the spraying system. So if we have high risk from a prediction model to spray the full dose, but if we don't have high risk, can basically automatically reduce the full dosage. So this is from Caffini, a big company in agricultural engineering that has developed. So basically, what we need is to spray when and where needed to reduce the plant protection products use and lower application rate, reduce the spray drift, and also be compatible with microorganisms and biopesticides, because the biopesticides require some more advanced technology in order to be applied. And of course, we're working quite a lot with drones that can spray. Here, we have basically to define new spray doses and all the stuff, but this is technologies that actually were quite a lot working. So in conclusion, I demonstrate basically to you that with the new technologies, basically we can predict, we can try to diagnose, and we can control more effectively the plant diseases using IPM systems, because actually what we want is to increase the biodiversity. I thank my research group and all of the funding agents, and of course all of you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Professor, for your engaging talk. And now we have time for just one short question. Do we have any? No, we have more. So we are running out of time, so maybe we could leave our longer discussions for the lunchtime.
I have a quick question. As I was listening to your presentation, I was thinking of all the small and medium farmers and how all this technology will be accessible to them, because it seems like it requires a lot of investment. So how is it going to affect them in long perspective and their viability?
Yes, you are absolutely right. So some of these technologies are affordable, especially for a small weather station, and a decision support system can be afforded by small farmers. Of course, the other technologies with the satellites is not so easy, but we have usually bigger groups of farmers or other huge groups of farmers can basically buy all this instrumentation and utilize it. And what I think we have asked also EU, in order to be able all these technologies to be provided to the farmers, we want also the EU financial basically help to the farmers with the subsidies, for instance, in order to provide these systems. So in Greece, we have special projects that are called operational groups with the farmers, so universities, research centers, and farmers, and through these projects, actually, they can buy all these technologies, the farmers, and they can use them, and they can keep the equipment.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for the answers, dear Professor. So we are leaving more answers and discussions for the lunchtime, if you don't mind. Thank you once again. Big applause. Addressing global change requires innovative thinking at the intersection of land governance, climate adaptation, and sustainable livelihoods. In this regard, we are pleased to welcome Professor Hossein Azadi from Ghent University, Belgium. Holding dual PhDs in agricultural economics and human geography, he has published nearly 400 peer-reviewed articles and ranks among the top 3% of global scientists. His research explores land and food policies, climate-smart agriculture, and the vulnerability of small-scale farming systems. Today, he will present resilient agriculture through the lens of smallholder farmers, developing tip-top early warning system. The floor is yours.
So thank you very much. So from the previous, presentation, let's go to a totally different journey to the global south. And I am very much liking your question. By the way, what's your name? Okay, I can't hear it. That is exactly this presentation about, okay? So let's have a look. Let's dig it further. What Dimitrios mentioned, which is absolutely good, but let's see how it's applicable, right? Okay. So the title of, let's say, this conference has been like resilient to climate change, right? So if we are having a resilient system, then we should in fact be very much careful. So technology is good. First of all, let me make my side very clear. Technology is good, but not enough. Okay, so that's the main message I'm going to deliver today. My major question, why we are here, guys? Why we are here? Why we are here? Why we are trying to make our system more resilient? Because let's start with the very first challenge. And if my colleagues can help me with the link. Yeah, okay. So global population, you know population clock, right? Let's have a look. Just click on the global population. No, the other one. No, not this one. Yeah, the first one. And if you can just show us now what is going on. So we are here because this number is turning right here, and this is turning very fast. We are here because we are responsible for the food system, right? So this number is turning very fast. However, can you, the other link, please? Yeah. And out of this turning very fast number, we should know how many people go to poverty. Your question, small-scale farmers. Look, this is the number that is also turning. So what are we doing out of this number? What are we doing for them? So this is a major question. Then I think that's enough. The rest I can manage myself. So challenge number one, global population. Challenge number two, poverty. And out of this poverty, if we look, so okay, so what happened? Okay, till they fix this, I continue. So we said global population is turning very fast. Out of that, many people go to poverty. And then, next one. Okay, so out of that, look, 500 million, they are small-scale farmers. So about 600, they are under poverty, and out of that, the majority, they are small-scale farmers. who are responsible at the same time for our food. And then we come with the technology. What happens then? So challenge number 1, global population. Challenge number 2, poverty. Challenge number 3, small-scale farmers who are in fact suffering from this, let's say, poverty. And then, of course, we have climate change. Agriculture is already responsible for a lot of CO2 emissions. So another challenge is the climate change and those, let's say, bad gases, okay? So the challenge remains like, what should we do? Go for sustainability, keep the system safe, or let's say, do not put a lot of pressure on our resources while that number is turning, and we know that we are responsible for that number, or we go for food production. So this is a kind of very, let's say very critical point. So we come with like this solution, like we need a system that can address, in fact, food production, but also mitigation and adaptation. When I say mitigation and adaptation, let's make it a little bit clear. What is mitigation, what is adaptation, because we need that for the rest of our discussion. What is mitigation, what is adaptation? Because I see still there are confusions here, mitigation and adaptation. Okay, let me make it with one, let's say, very recent example. So we recently experienced Corona, right? Who got Corona? So for those who got Corona, what did we do? Receiving some medications, for example, special diet, staying at home. And for those who didn't get Corona, what happened? You did nothing? Of course, you got a shot, right? Vaccination. So let's get back to the job. So mitigation happens, or we have to predict the incident beforehand. So to prevent, we go for mitigation. Mitigation, prevention, that shot. And adaptation means after the incident. We got the Corona and we should do something, okay? Why I'm saying that? Because we get back to the early warning system. That early warning system, in fact, should do both jobs. I mean, before and after. And then we also have kind of tipping point. Who knows tipping point? Tipping point? Yeah, okay. I'm going to show you with a little bit of action. Sorry. I need a chair. Sorry, I take this, okay? Just a second. Because I know you are tired. I'm going to make it with a little bit of action. So, tipping point. Because that is important. What the colleagues made as kind of early warning system, it has a tipping point, even tapping point, I'm going to show you. So the tipping point happens, for example, when I'm sitting here, and if I do like this, the system gets back, right? But at some point, it goes finish. That point is a tipping point. Why I'm saying that? Because if tipping point happens, the system is not resilient anymore. Because this is out of control. We don't want that. Then, therefore, we go for tapping point. Can you help me, please, Ritis? Can you come here? Yeah, here. I don't do anything. For tapping point. Who knows tapping point? Because later, we have to develop tip-tap system. Okay? What is tapping point? You ready? You're scared, okay? So, those who know martial art, MMA stuff. For example, when you are in the cage, we are in the cage. I do at some point, like submission, trying to, and then what should he do? His hand says, he taps. Leave me. Tapping point means avoiding tipping point. So he comes to the point that is very close to tipping point and then taps. We need that system. We need the system that can tap. And I'm quite sure in the early warning system we have that. But why we need that? Because this is not under the lens of small-scale farmers. That is the problem. And then, for those who know resilient, I think I made it last time when I was here, right? For resilient. Who knows resilient? Very clear. If we have here a kind of string, look, if I stress this string, it gets back, right? But at some point, it doesn't get it. Why it gets back, it is resilient, not anymore. The system is broken. Look, does not hold. We need a system that stays resilient. So that's this conference about, resilient system. Therefore, now we know what we need. A system that can address mitigation, adaptation, tipping point, and tapping. Okay. Like this system, we have had a lot of investments, 42 billion. And that number, small-scale farmers, poverty. So we put a lot of investment. Why we are still suffering from poverty? While SDG 1, SDG 2, one is about poverty, the other is about food security. So far, 8 decades passed since the Second World War. So many technologies advancement, one by one. Green revolution, GM crops, and now is the era of smart technology. And this number is still turning. We couldn't solve the problem. Okay, it's nice to say that, okay, technology can do this and that, but let's go to the job. Small-scale farming, what happens? So I'm not going to discuss that because you already a lot better than me know and discussed today. We need a system to shift from CSA, climate smart agriculture, to vulnerable smart agriculture. What's that? Vulnerability. We have to shift from technology to human factor. So if we have to solve the issue, we have to start with farmers, not with the technology. What we have done so far has been like, we develop a technology, look after the farmers. Can you use this? That doesn't work. We have to start from farmers. That's the thing that Michelle this morning opened the discussion with living labs. We need that. We should not produce or create something for them, create something with them, together. I don't say that we don't need science. I don't say that. We do need science, we do need technology. But what about farmers? Let's have a look. So you see, we already worked, and if you need, I can show you what elements should be added to those early warning systems that can also address. Look, the right side is what the colleagues already developed. The left part, that's our job, human factor. We have to study that and add it as a layer to our climate smart agriculture. And the point is, in the global south, what we have as a problem before technology is governance. The governance system is ignored. What that means, let me show you with a couple of examples. Look, this is an example from my home country. By the way, I'm Persian. Look, normally like this one is not an early warning system, but a kind of advanced, let's say, irrigation system, rolling, okay? In our country, because of it stands in the dry region, they said, okay, let's make the irrigation system more efficient, change everything. So the government made a big plan, invest a lot, and as farmer, you have to go for it. Like what he said, they said, we don't have money. They said, okay, we give you a cheap loan, no interest, you just need to pay. to pay back the original loan. Each system costs about $10,000. What happened? Look, after a couple of rolls, many of them, they are broken, totally. Look, they are totally broken. Why? Because we didn't consult them. Because we just ignored them. We said, we have a solution for you, let's do the job. And then we did it for them. We made the poor poorer, because before that they didn't have minus 10,000. Now they have minus 10,000 to pay back. So we made the poor poorer even. So I can show you another example in Ethiopia, where I'm very active already many decades. You see, for example, in Ethiopia, there are many international land deals. You heard about that, right? Many companies come, like this Indian company. They try to do what? Make the deal, and then they are supposed to do some good jobs for the farmers, but because the governance system doesn't exist, what happens? Look, of course, deforestation, because they have to clear the forest to make it ready for cultivation. So a lot of environmental damage. Even some jobs for ladies, they are all gone. This lady was telling me that, okay, I could earn a little bit of money with selling some mushroom. Now there is no such a thing because you cleared everything. So the company is just sucking the resources and leave nothing for those local people. Why? Because the governance system doesn't exist. Whatever technology you bring makes the rich richer, poor poorer. That is the problem. Are we here to make rich richer, poor poorer? Of course not. But the consequence is like that. The consequence is exactly like that, because we bring them a lot of, let's say, different technology. These workers I talked to, they told me they are working for that company only $1 per day. Only $1 per day. And in what work condition? Look at that. The Indian company said, we bring you drinkable water system. We do this and that, roads, housing, health, whatever. After 5 years, nothing happened. The Indian company is just sucking the resources, giving them nothing. Nothing, it's absolute poverty. And they have a lot of diseases out of this water. The other lady told me she has to walk like 3 kilometers even to approach that resource, that water resource. 3 kilometers. While they give the most precious thing what they had, like the land, and receive nothing. I repeat, nothing. Look at that. This is where these workers, they were living. Look. This is their toilet. Come on. It's a toilet. So, another one. Look at their shower. They told me this is shower. I was surprised to hear what is that. They said we go just to that, we get naked, and then we try to do some washing. So they lost their land and received nothing just because of the governance, bad governance. So should we start with the technology to clear everything, suck everything? Or first see what they need? Are we here to make rich richer, poor poorer? Of course not, but the consequence is like that. Okay, not all stories are bad. Myself, I worked in my home country together with some farmers. I repeat, together with them. So what I did, you see, the right part, there are some farmers, I took them to visit some successful farms. What happened? Then they talked to each other. The farmers talked to each other. I was just a facilitator. I didn't come say, hey, you have to listen to me. I have a good solution for you. And the right side, they already made a cooperative. That cooperative was working very well because through that cooperative, they could afford the technology. They could afford the technology. Like Dimitrios said that, okay, in our country, we have some subsidies whatsoever. So they don't need that if we make a governance better. Collective farms, they can put a little bit of money here and there, they can afford that. This is a scraper, you know that, like land leveler. So you make the land ready for cultivation, okay? And then like irrigation channels, and then they made a small plot of lands, small scale farming, through cooperative, now a large one. And everyone still has the ownership. So they are feeling good. We didn't take the ownership, we just made the size bigger. So what happened, this means that now the production system is much more efficient because they turned from 2 ton wheat production per hectare now to plus 6 ton. And in my home country, it is like that. If any of farmers can go plus 6, they can be a member of club. They call it plus 6 club. And this means that you can receive a lot of, let's say, subsidies and so on. So they were feeling very happy. So did I do anything with technology? Of course, I started with the governance. How we made the small size, let's say, farms bigger. I didn't start with the technology. I started how we can make this ownership. And even my question would be here, I'm going to finish. My question would be here, okay, we solved even, let's say, the money. Now they can afford the technology, for example, through some subsidies, program, whatsoever. What about infrastructure? What you are telling me, it does not work in the South, in the global South. There is no, in remote area, there is no electricity network at all. How can you work that? For all this, you at least need a smartphone, and a smartphone needs, of course, electricity to be charged at least. And even we bring the infrastructure. Then what about their literacy? They cannot read that. Many farmers are illiterated. So, starting with the technology, injecting some technology, and at the end, of course, we make the rich richer. Why? Because those rich people, they have everything. They can afford it. Most of the time, they are more educated. And, in fact, they can afford like a little bit of infrastructure. So we make the rich richer and poor poorer. That's not why we are here. So it's in fact not as bad as I try to describe. I'm just trying to tell you, if we have to work it out, make the whole system resilient, technology, of course, is important, but we should not start with the technology. We should start with the human factor, end user, who you are, what's your profile. There are different capitals we have to consider. And then based on one profile to the other, of course, the story could be totally different. So technology should be a lot context-based. So what the colleague said may work, I totally agree, in the global north. As you could see even in the examples, they mentioned most of the north countries. But in the south, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's too early to speak about that. When someone is saying that I'm suffering, for example, from that toilet, that shower, blah, blah. So you are telling me, okay, we have a very high advanced technology that can solve anything. So these are the things I wanted to let you know, that we need an approach, a new approach, starting with polycentric governance. What's that? This means that, okay, I give a very significant role to the farmer. Their voice should be heard well. Like Michelle said, we need a living lab. And the critic even for the living lab still is, we try to bring the lab, of course, into the real conditions of farmers, but we still forget this is mostly done for the north, for the global north. In the global south, speaking about living lab is still a bit too early. So this is something that we need to work with polycentric governance. And yeah, for this project, in fact, we started a new one in China, in northwest part of China, where you have a lot of poor farmers. 98% they are small-scale holders, 98%, which means that they are less than 10 hectares. And we have to do something for them. And they are cotton provider. They are dealing a lot, challenging a lot with having, let's say, water shortage, because that part is, in fact, in arid area. So this is, in fact, something that we say, start not with the technology, start with the human factor. First, we have to have a good understanding about them, who they are, their profile, what they need. And in fact, it's not that we are there to dictate that we know better than you. We should listen to them. This, in fact, one-way direction should be totally adjusted. And that was the ending. Thank you.
Thank you, Hossein, for very impressive presentation. And now we have only time for one question. So, welcome. So maybe somebody has a question. Oh, I see everybody thinking that we'll have a deeper discussion during the lunch. So thank you very much. Innovations at the crossroads of biology and digital technologies are key to securing the next generation of sustainable farming systems. In this context, we are pleased to welcome Associated Professor Viktorija Vaštakaitė-Kairienė from Vytautas Magnus University Agriculture Academy, Lithuania, and applied biochemist and agronomist. She combines plant physiology with practical agronomy and contributes actively to advancing sustainable agriculture in Europe. Today she will present the next harvest, digital and biological innovations for the future of farming and food. So, dear Victoria, please, the floor is yours.
Dear guests, dear colleagues, thank you for the introduction. And now I feel like standing a bit between two fires. One is digital and one is how to make it resilient for everyone. However, today the main goal of my presentation is actual goal to present what we do here at our Bioeconomy Research Institute, which is a hub of ideas, innovation, and impact. And I will share our institute vision and highlight some of the newest frontiers we are exploring. But the real spotlight belongs to our researchers who will present their own work during this conference. So together these stories will show the Institute and how it is shaping the future of the bioeconomy. To frame my presentation, I'll use what I call the three lenses, three perspectives through which we can reimagine agriculture. First is the soil lens, which represents the past foundation and legacy of farming, and this lens reminds us where we come from the rich soil and traditions that have fed us for generations. Second is the data lens, focused on the present transformation of agriculture through digital technology. And this lens shows us how modern farmers are now harnessing sensors and data to make smarter decisions. Third is biology lens, looking into the future where breakthroughs in genetics and biotechnology promise to reshape farming in revolutionary ways. Think of these lenses as time periods and perspectives. The soil lens takes us roughly to the year of 2000, our recent past. The data brings us today in 2025, and the soil lens bears ahead to around 2035. By examining each in turn, we'll see how agriculture has evolved and still evolving from the soil-driven practices to data-driven innovation, to biology-driven solutions. And each lens will reveal key challenges and innovations of its era. Together, we will give us a panoramic view of the next harvest, the future of farming and food. So around 2000, farming was shaped by the Green Revolution. Large tractors, heavy fertilizers and pesticides use, and mechanization drove high yields, but soil health declined. Intensive plowing and chemicals caused erosion, fertility loss, runoff pollution, and rising carbon emissions. The land showed fatigue, revealing the ecological costs of productivity. Yet farming remained rooted in tradition, knowledge was passed down through generations, and communities value the care of the land. The soil lens highlights both the productivity and traditions of this era, along with the warning signs that new approach was needed. At 2025, farming is driven by data. Sensors and drones track soil, crops, and pests, feeding artificial intelligence dashboards for real-time monitoring. This enables precision farming. Water, fertilizer, and treatments are applied only where needed, cutting waste and boosting efficiency. Artificial intelligence adoption is accelerating, with over 60% of large farms using precision tech. Digital twins let farmers test scenarios virtually before acting in the field. The farmer's role is shifting from field labor to data management, blending traditional knowledge and digital skills. The data lens shows farming becoming smarter, more efficient, and less harmful to the environment. By 2035, biology will transform farming. Engineered soiled microbes will act as living fertilizers, fixing nitrogen, unlocking nutrients, and protecting plants. Farmers will use tailored microbial cocktails instead of chemicals. Biotechnology will create climate-smart crops through gene editing, producing, by example, heat-tolerant wheat, water-efficient potatoes, and disease-resistant barley. Biofortified foods like nutrient-enriched vegetables will be common. Farms will also serve as biofactories, producing food, biofuels, bioplastics, and pharmaceuticals. And livestock farms may generate energy from captured methane. The biology lens envisions farms and multifunctional hubs that heal the earth, feed people, and drive the bioeconomy, enabled by research and responsible technology use. And at this point, you might be wondering who we are, the people behind these innovations in Lithuania. Allow me to introduce the Bioeconomy Research Institute and our mission. We are an interdisciplinary hub of scientists and experts, bringing together agronomists, ecologists, engineers, biotechnologists, economists, and more. By joining forces across these fields, we tackle agricultural challenges from multiple angles, much like how a healthy farm needs many elements working in harmony. Our institute was created to break down silos. Soil scientists working with data analysts, biologists working with economists. This collaborative spirit is one of our greatest strengths. Our mission is straightforward yet profound: to ensure safe and healthy food for people while maintaining sustainable environments for our planet. In essence, we strive for a future where we can feed our communities with nutritious food without depleting our soil or polluting our water. It's a mission that speaks to global needs. Food security and environmental sustainability go hand in hand. Every research project we undertake asks the question, does this help create a food system that is both productive and sustainable? We profound care a rich legacy as well. Our institute is a part of Agriculture Academy, which was founded in 1924. That means that we stand over 100 years of agriculture heritage. Generations of Lithuanian scientists and farmers have contributed knowledge that got us where we are today. We honor that history of excellence, the agronomic research, the innovations in crop breeding, the deep understanding of our regional ecosystems. Heritage and innovation really define us. We take that century of tradition and use it to full cutting-edge innovation for the next century. Being rooted in a 100-year-old institution reminds us we are part of a longer story, one where each generation builds upon the last. Our forefathers taught us how to work with the land. Now it's our turn to apply new tools like drones, gene editing, guided by those same fundamental principles of caring for land and community. This blending old and new is at the heart of our identity at Bioeconomy Research Institute. The Institute focuses on 4 main areas: climate-smart digital agriculture, developing precision farming and big data tools to boost yield, cut emissions, and adapt to climate change, renewable energy resources, turning farm-to-waste into biogas, growing energy crops, and using solar to replace fossil fuels, making farms part of a clean energy system. Bioeconomy innovations, creating bio-based products and business models for biodegradable materials to value-added foods, linking science with industry and policy. Sustainable food systems, ensuring food security, fair prices, and environmental health across the supply chain, while promoting agroecology and biodiversity. Together, these frontiers address global challenges: sustainable food, resilient farms, and developing rural economies in a green future. Let's dive a bit deeper into one existing research tool. Phenotyping means measuring plant traits. Traditionally done by hand, it is now transformed by drones and sensors. In minutes, drones capture data on plant growth, stress, canopy cover, and nutrient use. Advanced imagery and machine learning reveal drought tolerance, nutrient efficiency, a disease resistant and visible to the eye. Linking this field to data with genetic profiles identifies which genes drive superior traits. This high-through phenotyping speed breeding, cutting the timeline for new varieties from decades to years. The result is faster development of climate-smart, high-yield crops, and quicker delivery of improved seeds to farmers. From sky to genome shows how digital and biological tools secure future harvests. Genes and epigenome editing gives us precise tool to design future crops. CRISPR acts like molecular scissors, cutting DNA and targeted sites to disable or insert genes quickly and cheaply. Variants like base and prime editors make single-letter DNA changes and target insertions with high precision, reducing unintended effects. Epigenetic editing changes chemical tags on DNA instead of altering the sequence, turning genes on or off like volume knobs. This allows fine control, such as activating stress response genes only during the drought. It could also avoid some genetically modified organism concerns, since DNA code itself remains unchanged. Together, these methods, speed breeding, create climate and disease-resistant crops, and enhance nutrition. Used responsibly, they promise sustainable crops for the future. It's thrilling time to be in agriculture biotech, and our institute is at the heart of exploring these new frontiers. These innovations are one of the main research areas that researchers at Bioeconomy Research Institute will focus on over the upcoming 4 years, with an initial 8 million euros funding to establish the new Plenary Competence Center. Created together with the partners in Lithuania and the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, the center will advance cutting-edge plant biotechnology. By 2035, its primary outputs are expected to be practical tools and solutions for developing climate-smart, disease-resistant, and nutritionally improved crops. As agriculture embraces digital and biological innovations, key challenges and ethical questions must be addressed. Farms generate a massive data, but who controls it? Farmers, tech companies, or society? Policies must ensure farmers benefit without becoming digital tenants. High-tech tools risk favoring large corporations over small farms. Ensuring affordability, open source innovation, and antitrust oversight is vital to keep farming inclusive. Automation changed rural life. Farmers will shift from manual labor to management and analysis, while new jobs like drone technicians might emerge. Technology must support, not erode, rural communities. Gene editing, artificial intelligence, and data use must be transparent, ethical, and aligned with social values. Trust requires open dialogue, strong regulation, and clear communication of benefits. Innovation must create agriculture that is advanced, but also equitable, inclusive, and trusted. Lithuania is building leadership in bioeconomy, an economy powered by the innovation. There is a strong national focus with government, university, and industry aligned on agriculture, forestry, and biotechnology as drivers of sustainable growth. The Agriculture Academy, with its 100-year heritage, is central, and the Bioeconomy Research Institute serves as a hub for research in digital agriculture, biotechnology, and climate-smart farming. These efforts solve local challenges and position Lithuania as European knowledge source. Lithuanian experts contribute to EU policy and collaborate in international projects, from agro-robotics to climate adaptation. The country blends deep agricultural traditions with agility and innovation, making it testbeds for advanced solutions. Lithuania also invests in education, training future leaders through new bioeconomy programs, precision farming courses, and startup incubators. The vision is to become a strong leader for the bioeconomy recognized across Europe for expertise and solutions. In short, Lithuania may be small, but we are compact. But it's planting innovations with a potential to shape Europe's bioeconomy. Closing with the words of Professor Bumelis, a recognized biotechnologist in Lithuania, it is necessary to do everything on time, not only when you have time. We are reminded that timely action is essential. By acting now through research, innovation, and collaboration, we can build sustainable food systems and position Lithuania and Europe at the forefront of a bioeconomy. Thank you very much for your time and attention to listening my presentation. It was a real pleasure to share this journey through the evolving world of farming and food. I hope you found it illuminating and excited as I do. And the challenges are great, but innovations and collective will tackle them are more great. I'd like to hear your thoughts and questions, and if you would like to discuss more, we can do it on our time during the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Victoria, for your interesting presentation. Now it's time for the questions. Do we have any?
Okay, thank you, Victoria, for very interesting presentation. I have a very short question regarding innovations. How you think, at what stage Lithuania is? We are enough innovative here, or we still need to do more and more?
It's all the time what to do more, but I think we are in a very good position. According to the ratings published in US and in Europe, we are not in the first 10, but we are not at the last 10. And now the funding for the biotechnologies, and in our case, in agrobiotechnologies, increased. So it shows the potential of a sector, and I believe that we don't need to prove as much as we had to do it before, that innovations are needed even in the agriculture. I think today, now we all understand that without food, nobody will live. So let's say what I see now, that I see a huge potential, especially in this sector. But we still have to work a lot to be very proactive, to be on the top of innovations in Europe and the world.
Thank you, dear Victoria, once again. Big applause. Thank you. So thank you very much for a very fruitful plenary session with interesting presentations and discussions. Our plenary session has now concluded. Big applause, please. Thank you. And it is now time for lunch, which will be served in the 5th floor of this building, in the lobby of the 5th floor. We would like to kindly remind you that after lunch, 2:30, the political, business and science panel discussion on the new bioeconomy strategy, European goals and Lithuanians' contribution to developing and innovating bio-based industry will begin here in the same hall. The panel will last until 4:30. The gala dinner will start at 6 p.m. at Raudondvaris Meno Arts Incubator. A special bus will be waiting for you in front of this building at 5 p.m. and take you to the venue, and then we'll return to Kaunas City Center and Agriculture Academy at 10 p.m.
Tomorrow, we look forward to welcoming you at the conference sessions, all of which will be held here in this building. After the conference, you will receive an email with instruction on how to download your certificate of attendance.
Once again, we would like to sincerely thank our conference partners and supporters. Jülich Forschungszentrum, SARH University, AgroServe European Research Services on Agroecology Conference, Lithuanian Rural Network, Research Council of Lithuania, Kauno Grūdai and Mantinga for their significant contributions and support. Big applause, please, once again for our supporters. Thank you.
And now, the final but very